Hi, I'm Sean, this is Nathan, and we're Barely Tactical. We picked, actually, you know what? It's Canada Day. So it's a lovely day to come out here and do your patriotic duty, which is to fire guns in a field just like your ancestors did.
Communist Chinese guns.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have the Type 81 SR. If they did, I don't know, they would have beat the Americans more. Sorry, it happened. But yeah, what do we have here? Oh no.
So this is the Type 81 SR. They were on sale back in like January, February, and I'm like, why the heck not? This one is relatively factory configuration. We have the Tactical Imports slant brake on there for AK goodness. And then some of you might have such a keen eye to say, oh, that's a real Belomo. Well, it is. It's a Belomo 2.5 to 5 variable zoom PSOP with the illuminator. I couldn't be a regular person and get the 4-power they sold on the website. I had to import this. So that is what we got, and we're going to have some fun with it.
If you couldn't dance, what would you do? Suicide?
Brother, what's that?
Suicide?
So the Type 81 SR, quite a fun piece of kit. We brought it out of the range. We put a couple hundred rounds through it. Let's address the obvious. What makes it different than your run-of-the-mill Type 81? Well, it's more of a DMR in philosophy of use and design. It has that quintessential Dragunov kind of stock set. It has a slightly longer barrel for the extra 20 feet per second you'll get at a 7.62x39. Heavy profile barrel, and this thing's optics ready, so you can throw your cool side mount Belomo or do a master mount into a pick rail, you name it. But you could say this is the not to use a buzzword, but say the sniper variant, if you want, if you could call this thing anything in that realm.
Yeah, that's it's still very much a Type 81. Mm-hmm. It does look like a Dragunov, but a reminder that a Dragunov is a Dragunov, so
and prohibited.
That's 7.6254R, this is 7.62 with 39. Not necessarily a DMR cartridge, or at least not something you would think of when that comes to mind. Still plenty capable, but it is an intermediate cartridge. It's not something that's going to truck it like, 600-700 yards effectively, like 308 or something like that.
Like, not to knock on 7.62x39, using this caliber specific optic, which we'll touch back on later, we were making hits at 350 yards.
Consistently, too.
Super consistently on a torso-sized target, and we did some accuracy kind of grouping up close. At 25 yards, we had bullets pretty well touching. At 100 yards, we actually had like almost a 1.25 MOA group on a steel plate. People knock on the Type 81, oh, it's a 5 or 6 MOA gun. You might as well get a hose, put your thumb in between, and splash water at the target. It'll be just as accurate. Not a precision instrument, but plenty accurate for anything you're realistically going to do with this. This thing being a plinking gun, world ends angry, no share time, the electric mouse bounce house. Eyes up here, pal. I see you're checking out my groin armor. The S&J Hardware Level 3A groin armor, 1000D Cordura. Molly webbing on the front, made in Canada, baby. If you want to get one of these, we have an exclusive promo code for S&J Hardware. NutHugger15 gets you 15% off not only the NutHugger 3000, but all carriers and armor on the website. Check it out. The big igloo, boogaloo.
Yeah, you can carry more ammo, magazines readily available. It makes a lot of sense. But as far as plinking DMRs go, there's not that many really, in terms of something that
since ARs are gone.
And also just thinking of 7.6239 is plentiful. You can get it.
It's one of the last holdouts for as far as economy of scale. You can still get your sardine can
Yeah.
You know, they don't always pull open nice. You'll see ours, we had to use a chisel and a hammer to crudely pry it open.
These chimpanzees make tools and use them to enjoy a tasty nut meat meal.
But hey, that's part of the fun. It's 30 cents a bullet. You don't expect nice packaging.
Yeah. But again, in terms of practicing, like you should be out there practicing as much as you can. So from an economical point of view, this gun makes a lot of sense. And like we said, we were hitting things. It was, I think, 350 meters, not yards. Huge difference, but like, yeah, it was pretty consistent. It was a lot of fun. There were some learning curves, though, as we found out, all to do with the scope, which is not. It doesn't come with the rifle. That is something that we added on.
Well, through Tactical Imports, you can get a Belomo PSO or PSOP scope. It's usually a fixed 4-power. You know, the need to be weird, I actually ordered through Eastwave products a 2.5 to 5-power. You know, I wanted the variable optic for all the special token points, but they will operate similarly. It's very different than a conventional scope where you have MOAs of adjustment. How does this thing adjust, Sean?
So there's 2 steps to it. The first is you get your 0 by actually moving the reticle inside of the scope, right? Like, so it's like moving it up and down, around, and all that. So that is one variable, and then the next is you lock that in with the turret, and you move it to increments of 100 yards, which actually is a great idea, because instead of having to do the math, because I suck at math, of how many clicks, you know, for that, or like working with millinuts or something like that, like you actually just, am I like 100 or 100 meters from the target? Click. Am I 200 from it? 1 click, and it does it all for you, which is pretty great once you get it set up. That's the big thing. And
it's a little funky because you can, when you're adjusting, you literally watch the crosshair move within the optic, and you can get it relatively biased one side or the other. You know, you'll have the reticle in the bottom third, top third, you know, however it kind of pans out. This thing, on paper, should have been easy to sight in. Our starting point was great. We threw the optic on, like, no fine tuning, and the left-right was perfect. Just the elevation was about a foot low, which in the grand scheme of I put a scope on a gun, how's it doing? That's pretty not bad.
Yeah.
The traditional sighting in method is you shoot the gun with iron sights, you see where you're printing, and then you use the optic and you adjust your crosshairs to where your bullets were landing, and that's your point of impact. We a little bit of Googling, and a Chinese Reddit guy, you know, came to the rescue. He had a Chinese, you know, PSOP equivalent, and he kind of explained, hey, you do the micro adjustments within the optic, you set it, forget it, and then you use the elevation increments for your distance. And you use a little rangefinder in the optic, you put the little swoosh, and we'll put a little graphic in to the best of our ability. You put the little man in the swoosh, that's how far away he is. And then, you know, Vasily the peasant could look down the scope. Oh, buddy's 300 meters away. 1, 2, 3, and then you're on target. It's pretty ingenious versus doing, it's 7 MOA up. Like,
having to
it takes the math out of it. You just look at find the number, make numbers match, go bang. Like, it's kind of ingenious.
It's a busy looking scope, but honestly, when I was looking through it, I was able to kind of ignore the things I didn't need. And you just focus on the chevron, and you're kind of good to go. Obviously, the scope does have to be caliber specific, because it kind of does a lot of the work for you, and if this was over many various calibers, that it wouldn't work.
This wouldn't work on a 223. Like, this is a 762 by 39 like AK specific scope.
Yeah.
But they make 762 by 54R. I'm not sure how many other options they would make in the Russian. You know,
probably those two.
Unless
we're talking, there's the 50 Vishlov, whatever that is. Like,
which if you're going to use the type of optic, then have something different for it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's something that I kind of wish we did. Like, being the West, I kind of wish we had that. I understand having a scope that you can put on anything. My practice has been just whatever rifle has the scope, I kind of keep it on that rifle anyway. So it'd be kind of nice to have, you know, the increments already set for you. But it is something that you should look into how to set. Once it's set, I'm kind of hoping it's a like set and forget kind of thing, and we can just like run it as is. But yeah, no, lots of fun.
I take it above moderately accurate, quite accurate.
Yeah.
It's more accurate than the person probably pulling the trigger. Speaking of the trigger, this is an improvement at face value over a standard SKS or Type 81 trigger, but there's I describe it as a roller coaster. It's like
Yeah.
a mush, a kind of bar of resistance, and then more mush. We'll inlay the clip where we grand thumb, you know, pull it with you, but it's a unique experience. It's not as predictable as a more refined trigger, but this is...
It's not a precision trigger, because like as you said, like, you kind of hit like a wall of pudding and then like slowly work your way through it.
Transitions to peanut butter.
Yeah, because like usually, you know, you're pulling it and you hit the wall and you're like, okay, cool, like it's gonna break here, and then it just keeps going a little bit further, and then breaks. And so it's funny because I actually flinched my first like 2 shots, and I'm like, is this really like that kind of trigger pull? Like, you know, I almost had to get used to it. And then afterwards, like I said, we were hitting 350 meters, which is you know, indicative of like being able to, you know, we overcame it.
Slightly bit of take up, then smush, 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 break. There's not like a hard bar you could stage against. It's kind of like a gradual mush. So you have to get used to that.
Gradual mush. You heard it here first, folks.
You can't compare this to like a Trigger Tech, like AR trigger pack or Geisley. Like you can't. They're completely different animals. This is like a trigger for peasants, and the vast population of people being peasants. That's fine. It's adequate. Price was decent, so I got in the heyday. They did a relatively brief but lasted kind of longer than it was supposed to sale where they're on for $999. I jumped on it. They're back up around $1,500, which is expensive. And we've said this before in our other Type 81 video. Compare it to its peers, and it kind of is better. Like your crappy 180s, your 181s, which are like heinously bad.
Yeah.
Like.
It's sad that like a peasant like Chinese not
A second-rate Chinese.
second-rate, yeah, is better than our in-house rifles by a long shot, and I'll die on that hill. I know some people say, "Oh, I've got a great, you know, WK-180." You've got the rare one.
Yeah, or you haven't shot 2,000 rounds out of the piston hasn't grenaded inside of the gun.
Speaking of, absolutely no hang-ups on this, no malfunctions whatsoever. We had an errant magazine issue, but honestly, we might do a whole video just on magazines for Type 81s, because we found, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, the absolute cheapest waffle magazine ever, which, is here.
From ProMag, who we've previously crapped on for making poo-poo magazines.
Loads perfectly, can hold 5 without messing up. Yeah, you can load it and because some of the ones you load, and then as you're loading the other one, a bullet will slip out of it. And it's like, how the hell did that happen? Yeah. So. Mind you, we're working with converted magazines for a lot of them, and you could maybe argue there's a more precise way to do it. Lots of you thought the way we did it worked plenty fine. If one of you has a better way of converting Type 81 mags, comment below. But as you can see, it actually does come with its own
Dragunov-esque shorty.
Yeah, which looks nice.
It looks nice, but it takes all your regular 181 mags. You'll see in the shooting footage we have P-mags in there, the fake lights. We run the Pro Mag, which is goated. You know what we'll do? You know those S through F tier grids? We'll actually rank AK mags on that for 180, or not 180s, WK.
Type 81.
What are we even shooting?
It's okay.
For my grand.
Spoilers, this might be number 1 mag.
I smell an A. Maybe an S.
Maybe an S. It does exactly what it's supposed to, and it's cheap.
Yeah.
But one thing about this rifle though is it is quite heavy. Being a DMR, I mean, if somebody was like, "Oh, I've got a DMR that weighs like 4 pounds," I'm like, "Do you have a DMR? Because that doesn't sound right." This kind of what does this clock in with?
This came in at 9.5 pounds. Yeah. Which is like M14 weight. Yeah. And mind you, that does make the recoil pleasant. Not that a regular Type 81 recoils much. This recoils even less. You have an extra 1.5 pounds of meat on this thing. Yeah. Heavy barrel, the solid wood stock set. And a little caveat for people that are in the Type 81 sphere, we're using the Gen 1 stock on it. I haven't had to upgrade to the Gen 2. There's been no cracking. We shot 200 rounds out of it. TI got ahead of the curve and they sent the replacement stock with the gun. We might not even need it. It's held up. Maybe we're lucky. Maybe we'll shoot it next time and we'll get a big old dirty crack and you guys will all say, "I told you so." But so far, so good. But yeah, just think of all the extra crap on there. The side mount optic has a ton of weight because now you have that big solid metal plate for master mount. Then you have the claw, and the scope itself's not light. Like, this is a relatively sizable scope. It's all metal construction. Belarus special. The Belomo Chonky Boy. like it takes a AA battery. It's not a cool smart watch battery.
I think it's better that it takes it over battery, frankly.
But like just all the heft that comes with this robustness, it's a heavy gun.
Yeah, and so on that point, I mean, it's also a DMR, so we were shooting from the bench most of the time.
97% of what we shot was off the bench.
We did do some offhand shooting, and you notice it. Like, you know, I'm sure there's some monster guys, oh, it can't be that heavy, but it's like, once you're like trying to aim effectively with something that's like, you know, 9 pounds, like if you're holding it there for like, you know, 30, 40 seconds, you're gonna feel it, and your arm, you're gonna start having like little like micro muscle spasms and stuff. So like, it's unavoidable for humans. Like,
and the fact that it's a conventional style scope, not a red dot, so the movements are that much more profound.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a target and your circle's going like
yeah,
this while you're trying to make your shot. Like, you want to get your shot off quick if you're going to shoot this offhand, or take a knee, be a gentleman.
yeah. Like if you were thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna go cross country with this or something like that, like maybe
or run a
bring,
3-gun match, like
yeah, maybe like, you know, bring your backpack so you can lay down on the ground and use that as like, you know, like a sandbag or something. But yeah, probably offhand shooting, not necessarily. I mean, but then again, we've got the Type M for that kind of stuff, which is, I mean, they're polar opposites in that regard, which is great.
if there was a sliding scale of Type 81, like, you know, there's the maneuverable and the heavy. Well, we've done the maneuverable and this is the heavy.
SR, she heavy.
It's SR thick.
And I was like, damn, she thick as double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
But no, it's honestly though, this was, I'm really coming around to Type 81s. Like, I didn't know how different these were going to be because it's like, oh, it's kind of the same gun, same ammo and all that, but it was a blast. Like they kind of like
They made it different enough to make it still seem special.
yeah, they check off different boxes, which is great. We actually may have done something to the Type M that you haven't seen yet. It might look a little different, but yeah. So comparing it to other Type 81s, it's in its own class. It's not that it's better or worse than others, but they have their own, you know, kind of niches.
Yeah, if it was an MMORPG, like this thing would have a little bit less DPS, but it would have a a better crit rate or something. Like there's micro differences amongst them. You could get a fixed stock and put a Bolomo scope on it, and it would be 90% of what this is.
Yeah.
You could take the scope off of this and run around and shoot with iron sights like an underfolder. It would still kind of do that.
Yeah, if you want to do it, like I'm not going to say no. I think this is kind of like its optimal build. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even the muzzle brake, low tech. We went for the tactical imports, slant brake, like the generic AK type brake. I think it did fine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't shooting it offhand much, but it kept flat. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't kicking up anything that I shouldn't have, or yeah.
no, well-oiled machine. Speaking of that, when you oil this thing up, it does look quite nice. And maybe that might be the biggest difference between it and some of the other Type 81s is this one's in the blue steel. It does have that old world, like Cold War AK kind of look versus the more modern, like flat, Parkerized texture. Like this looks a little more classy, if you will. Classy Type 81. You know, throw the monocle on it, the top hat. This one drinks tea sometimes.
You're just sitting in the basement with your Type 81s. Oh, well, you like that? Oh, just imagine you. Oh, you dirty girl.
Speaking of dirty,
There.
this will get dirty. We put about 200 rounds through it, problem free. I spent a half hour cleaning it because you have to if you're using corrosive ammo. If you're a Giga Chad or just have money falling out of your pocket, shoot the non-corrosive or the S&B like hunting ammo at $1 a round. I don't think it makes sense. I would shoot a box out of it just to see if there is an accuracy difference between the 30-cent Chinese surplus and the like $1.30 S&B. Maybe that could be a video,
Maybe.
but
We
I
were
don't think
kinda-
it's worth it.
We were stacking holes at one point, so it's kind of,
If you're shooting paper, like use the lowest common denominator of ammo, and that's the stuff that
Yeah.
comes in a big green tin, and it works.
yeah. If you can get it open.
Yeah, those pull tabs are not pull tabs; they're suggestions and not the correct suggestion.
Oh, we were reefing on those things. And it's funny because you've had a mixed bag where like, well, one
I've opened 4 of them,
And
and
one was
one
good.
actually like pulled around
Yeah.
nicely, and I was like, oh wow, and that was actually like one of my first ones. And since then, it's been like tin snips, like whatever
Yeah.
ghetto implement you can work out.
maybe you can sense that like a Westerner is trying to open it. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. It has to protect the secrets of the Kremlin, so
Yeah.
it fortifies itself. As far as tactical gear, we didn't bother pairing this with any rigs. You're shooting from a bench. Didn't seem like the time for a carrier or a chest rig. You could.
Yeah.
AK mags or AK mags. You could run it in whatever rig you want to. I don't think it's necessary. This is probably sitting around plinking, you know, hanging with the boys.
Yeah, even if we were to make like a designated like DMR rig, I think it would be just really light with lots of ammo. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you run the Chi-Com rig with it.
because you're like, oh, I'm not getting close to them.
That's the wine and food pairing. SR, Chi-Com rig, chef's kits.
Okay, maybe we should have brought the SR. Maybe we should have brought the Chi-Com out.
Well, we do have the Chi-Com.
No, brought it out. Like,
Oh, yep, yeah, true.
But next time.
To address the internet, because the internet has kind of maybe unfoundedly called this a meme gun.
Oh yeah.
People are like, oh, it's funny, it's a meme gun. Well, kind of. But it's good. Like, a good meme lasts a while. You can send it to your friends a couple times before they get sick of it. I think this is a good meme gun.
Yeah, it's a meme gun that will age well, I think. Because, as you said, we can't have Dragunovs in this country. Even when it comes to things that like Sling 762 by 54R,
We have Mosins.
Mosins? Like
and SVT-40s if you bought one
Right.
for, you know, 4.5 million Canadian pesos.
So there, this is like, if you don't have the SVT-40, this kind of, and even then, I don't know.
Yeah, this is still different enough.
Yeah, so.
It's good, and there's all sorts of accessories out there. If you want to get a little harder into the AK cloning, 3-dot bar. I'll put the actual name of it. I can never pronounce it correctly, but they do an AK style selector on there, which is the actual paddle you can slap up and down. If you want to make it more AK-ish, you can get an AR style thumb safe, which is only a 90-degree throw versus the kind of curious Soviet 180-degree throw on the safety. Some people are doing trigger jobs, though, like they're polishing it and smoothing it up. I think that's diminishing returns.
I think that's the only thing I might consider is improving the trigger, but if it was too much money or too much effort, just leave it. It's not like it kills it. Also, these magazines, you need to get this one.
You know what? Shameless plug for someone that doesn't even know we exist. Go to Aztec and order a bunch of these. Because they're 16 US. Do it while you still can. Thanks to the latest OIC. Get cheap Pro Mags in bulk and have a dandy old time. I think it's pretty awesome. Was there anything aside from the trigger you would change about this, given its philosophy of use and how it turned out?
No, like it's heavy, but at the same time, I don't want to take away anything from it because then you're kind of taking away from the aesthetics. I think it's exactly what it needs to be. Like
exactly what it needs to be.
Like, oh, that's not a very tactical gun. It's like, okay. Oh, you're like, run
it's
through the
1960s tech. Well, it's 1980s tech based on 50s and 60s tech. So
it's a good Russian thing to go with that style. Yeah.
Exactly, and it looks cool having the old Palomo optic on there.
It does. Also, I don't know if you were going to mention that your optic is also not the specific for military use optic, was it?
So I ordered a certain model. I got it. I tried putting the recommended battery in there. It didn't fit. I reached out to Eastwaves. They got me in touch with a guy in the factory, like a technical advisor, and he had me send a couple like crude pictures. He could immediately like smell the pixels, knew exactly which model it was. And this was the military contract that takes the AA as opposed to the commercial model that takes the CR123 garbage batteries. That doesn't bother me. AA's you can get in a 1,000-pack from Amazon. I actually use this protection tape here and tape the spare battery into the stock so you can toggle on the illumination if you want to do your cool red illuminated optic coolness. And the low light shooting, which we can't even do in Canada.
Yeah,
so.
But you got the contractor kind of scope. Which
Yeah, the military contract.
It's kind of cool.
More gooder?
Betterer.
Betterer.
Yeah.
The most best.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yeah. Go out, get one. If you have to pay $1,500, honestly, still worth it. Stock up on Type 81s until your wife divorces you. Financial responsibility is for the weak. Type 81s are forever, and this is a classic.
Credit card debt.
'Cause I have $30,000 in credit card debt. When they call, I tell them I can't pay it back yet. Credit card debt.
Well, we put about 200 rounds through it, and we had a lot of fun. Sean, is this the meme gun the internet says it is?
Pretty much. Yeah, this is fun to shoot. There's a learning curve. Maybe we're outside of the curve because we're just idiots. But
yeah, those Eastern optics, you have to read the pamphlet. Don't just bring the gun out to the bush and try to figure it out. I don't know who would have done that.
Yeah, see, we do this for you, so you don't have to do it. Don't do what
Yeah.
we do. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I understand the concept of the scope, and once we got it on, I mean, that was fun. We were hitting things at 350 yards, which is, as you've probably heard us talk about already.
Yeah.
So pretty fun as like a sporter kind of like DMR plinking rifle goes. Like this is pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think I'd run any, Garand Thumb courses with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's a little heavy,
Yeah,
but this thing is supremely fun. It is just it's the Giga Chad of wannabe DMRs. 7.62 is cheap. It's mediumly accurate, and it just looks meme-ish, man.
It's a meme gun.
It is a meme gun.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not fun.
Is it the meme gun for us?
It's
Maybe.
cheap. So I mean, it passes our one year only criteria. But
Cheap
yeah,
and non-restricted.
yeah. But speaking of cheap, don't forget, right now there is a promo going on with S&J Hardware. And what is that promo, Nathan?
Nut Hugger 15.
I'm not saying it.
That gets you 15% off of the Nut Hugger, and not just that, but all of their other body armor, carriers, armor-related stuff. 15% off, pretty big deal.
That's pretty good. Don't type nut hugger in Google. Just
Safe search off.
yeah, on your work computer. But yeah, until next time, keep your sights fixed and barely tactical, and yeah, we'll catch you next time.